the key thing in sales, you will absolutely want to take this away, is finding the source of either their pleasure or their pain, goals or their pain, right? So the why really, really matters when selling real estate, just so you know. Like, it is all about motivation, like everything we do. So where are you moving? When do you want to move there? What has you moving there are the 3 questions you need to ask on almost every single phone call if you can. All right.
Okay, cool.
That's the key to unlocking real conversations with people, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, all right, so this is an appointment that with the information I have today, I wouldn't even advise you going on. Wow, Tell me why you think that, though.
Well, for one, because I feel like that, there's lack of qualification there, for one, because I didn't ask for motivation. And, the other would be that it sounds like he's, I don't know. To me, I would probably come to the same conclusion for different reasons, I would think. The reason that I would come to that conclusion is that this guy it seems pretty clear that he doesn't want to talk about listing. And I also personally might feel a little uncomfortable sending him my resume or whatever that's very listing based.
Yeah. So you're close. There's 2 things here. Okay. So number 1, you said that twice, like, you're used to people saying they're not interested in listing. Well, we already know that up front.
Right.
When they put it up for sale by owner, you and I already can assume that they're not interested in listing, because you have to take the rules of, like, we call them the rules of engagement. It's like this, right? So it would be like asking somebody at the altar when they're getting married if they're open to getting a divorce with that person the same day. Like, what are they going to say 100% of the time?
Sure. No.
It's like, dude, I'm getting married. Are you fucking stupid? Like, what are you talking about? Right. So like, realtors always say that to me respectfully, like, we already know he doesn't want to list. He would have listed it. He's selling by owner. So we know that. Sure. What we know, here's what we do know. And I'll relate it back to marriage. What we do know with for sale by owners is, over time, if they can't sell on their own, then they start to look at other options, but not day one. So I don't look at them saying I'm not interested in listing as an objection. I already knew that. The same way somebody at the altar isn't thinking about divorce the exact same day, most likely. Over time, when they find out they're married to an asshole, well, potentially they would get divorced down the road. This is the same thing with for sale by owners. You with me?
Yeah.
So in selling specifically, though, there are, you got to get really good at like these hypothetical micro commitments. Okay. And what I mean by that is this, which is the second piece. Well, maybe the third piece, but like where you're going to find a lot of success is not like, it's going to be absolutely rare, if ever, for you, just so you know, where you make one call and like, they're so open to talking to you. They're so open to setting a listing appointment. It's going to be very, very, very rare. What you have to, and I'd put this on your wall, you're making, for the most part, lead generation calls. Yes, you're looking for appointments, phenomenal. But for the most part, you're generating leads that are going to the top of the funnel because these are people you're talking to for the first time. Remember, appointments come from lead follow-up, right? So these initial calls, I'm looking for, my mindset, my expectation is I'm looking for leads to go into the top of my funnel that are qualified to go on the top of my funnel. So let me explain this second half of the feedback. So one, we talked about, well, I'm going to come back to that too in just a second. The reason I don't like this appointment is because why are you going to the appointment? What does this guy believe the basis of the meeting is about?
Well, about potentially having a buyer.
That's right. He even said it. Like, yeah, I'd be happy to meet with you just from an expectation standpoint about the whole buyer. Yeah. We never, ever, ever want to go on appointments like that, ever.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And I just want to toss in here that I wholeheartedly agree with that. One thing that I've seen, and, obviously I'm open to everybody's input, and, I'm the last to give any that is very valuable to anyone else who's successful in this business. But, interacting with the group, sometimes I'll have discussions where I'm like, well, I probably wouldn't even go on this for that reason, because to me, if it's predicated on their expectation of having a buyer, I don't think that that's the right position to be in. But I've seen a lot of folks that seem to think, well, that's kind of given up too soon because you don't necessarily know. So I'm kind of trying to balance that fine line of like, well, because things can be different when you're in person.
So watch. I'm going to give you the actual specific area for that. Okay. The advice that they're giving is not wrong. I agree with the advice under this context. Okay. So had you set the appointment and he didn't bring up anything around like, okay, just to be absolutely clear, like I'm only showing it to you because you could sell it to a potential buyer, right? Had he not said that, because you could set preview appointments with script 1.0 doing exactly what you just did on that phone call. Like, and I don't know if you have done that or not. Those I'm perfectly fine with, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I am using 1.0. I kind of just deviated a little bit from what he said, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So that's fine. That's what they're saying. But when somebody is so specific about the buyer, here's the second piece of the feedback. What you have to ask immediately is the FSBO qualifying question, the if-then question, okay? This is the whole piece of feedback that I probably have a half page of notes on for you specifically that's going to help you the most, all right? So in reverse selling, there's this if-then type of relationship. And this is where I was hoping you were going to go with that guy. It was perfect. So we respect the fact that he's selling on his own. We already know that. Okay. So that's why it's so easy to talk through us. Like it's so easy just to be so agreeable like you were. Like, of course you're selling on your own. You got to try to sell on your own. The reason why I'm calling is if in the event you don't sell, talking about 2, 3, 4 weeks into the future, would you be then open to potentially looking at some other options? We're going to explore that conversation, where that conversation, what we're trying to lead that conversation to, which a lot of for sale by owners would tell you, listen, yeah, if we can't sell, sure, we'd be open to some other options. Okay, cool. Then it leads to us emailing the backup plan. Then it leads to a preview appointment around the backup plan. So if I'm role playing this with you, that exact same guy, right? I would say, you know what, Jonathan, listen, I get it, right? You got to try to sell this thing on your own. The market's phenomenal. The reason why I'm calling is I don't have a buyer for you. I'm not going to start this off the wrong way by lying to you. If 2, 3, 4 weeks into the future, you're unsuccessful selling, which I don't think will be the case. For some people it is, but for most it isn't, how hot the market is. At that point, would you consider maybe looking at some other options and talking with realtors? I'm just curious. And if he says something that's favorable, right? Let's just pretend you responded to that and you said, yeah, probably be open to that. I would say, cool. Well, here's, I guess, what I'll do, and I don't mind at all. I can send you an email with what I call my for sale by owner backup plan. A lot of people in our market love the plan. Take a look at it. If you find any value in it whatsoever, you and I can have further conversations about that in the future. Fair enough? And the guy says, yeah, cool. It's very non-threatening because I'm not asking him to commit to anything today. We're talking about a hypothetical situation into the future. So this is how we get people to open up. So then I email him the backup plan, right? Then when I'm on the phone, I would then go for the preview appointment under those circumstances. So watch this. So I say, okay, cool. I'll email you as soon as we hang up. I guess let me just ask you this. And again, I'm happy to do it. This is what I do every single day. Would you find value in me stopping by, giving you some feedback about the property, walking you through maybe some things that can help you sell on your own? And when I'm there, I'll walk you through how my backup plan works. And then you could decide, Jonathan, if this is something you would consider down the road or not. Would you be open to at least a 10-minute conversation? And you and I are virtual high-fiving when you set an appointment like that. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like you're like, dude, this is phenomenal, right? So now the context of the meeting is about potentially working together in the future, which we know is our only chance to convert the for sale by owner anyways. Like the guy's not going to list his house today. We already know that. So let's not have that conversation. Let's not have the buyer conversation because we know we don't have one of those either. We have to look in the hypothetical situation about the future. That is where all conversion with for sale by owners live.